Yo, what is up guys? Fishman here, and today I'm hitting you with another league theory. This time, we are looking at what items are best for Eve. If you do enjoy these videos, do hit that subscribe button and like the video, it really helps. And any champion you want to see me test out, just leave it down in the comments. But onwards we go today. We are testing out Rocketbelt, Night Harvester, Liandry's Anguish, Ludens Tempest, and Everfrost. A champion that was extremely oppressive last season, but is now considered a second-tier jungler, with even Poppy residing above her on the tier list. Her drop in tier is probably due to the fact that Runic Echoes is no longer in the game, and was such a huge power spike for her when purchased. But now people are running Night Harvester, and for those people who don't care about statistics, Night Harvester is good, but I feel with Eve you have to pick and choose which mythic to go based off the enemy team comp. If it's all squishies, which does happen, the Night Harvester is the perfect option for you. But if they have a Bruiser or a tank, it's probably best to go Ludens or Rocketbelt. For the magic pen it gives preferably Ludens, but the damage difference is negligible with Rocketbelt as long as you are using the active ability. It also allows for better engages, allowing you to W, Q, Rocketbelt, E, so you go from invisible to instantly on top of them with the Rocketbelt, being a great gap closer when paired with your E. But I digress. We have 3 targets this time, unlike when we did the Arena League theories. We have a Squishy with 1600 hit points and 50 armor and magic resist. We have a Bruiser with 2600 hit points with 90 armor and magic resist. And a tank with 3600 hit points with 180 armor and magic resist. Maybe a bit overkill, but you never know what people will build, so it is plausible. We also have 2 stages of testing. The first stage, Eve will have a Void Staff, a Death Cap, and Penetration Boots, plus whatever mythic item. She will be level 11 and her runes will not be fully stacked. Then we have the second stage of testing where Eve will have a Void Staff, Lichbane, Death Cap, and Penetration Boots. Whatever mythic she will be using, and she will be level 14. All her runes will be fully stacked. Also, when we are testing damage, we will be doing a full combo. So this will be a W into a Q, E. If the item has an active, that is where you would use it. Then Q will be finished, so all her hate spikes will be used up, into an R. For our very first test, Eve has no mythics. She kills the squishy doing 2450 damage, but both the Bruiser and tank survive, taking 1653 damage and 1220 damage respectively. Now we move on to the first mythic, which is Rocketbelt. With this item, it kills both the squishy and the Bruiser, but the tank survives, which is a pattern that will continue throughout the testing, but nonetheless. They take 3200, 3120, and 1845 damage, which is not bad, meaning against all but tanks she should be able to combo them. The next item is Night Harvester, which indeed kills the squishy but surprisingly leaves the Bruiser alive, and unsurprisingly leaves the tank alive as well. Though at first I didn't quite believe that it didn't kill the Bruiser, but it seems that after a few more tests, in fact it wasn't enough to kill the Bruiser. I do believe this is due to the lack of armor pen that this item gives. With this item, Eve did 3089, 2179, and 1698 damage to each target respectively. Also, another thing to note is versus the tank, this item did around 150 less damage than Rocketbelt. We then move on to Liandry's, which was an item present in only the initial stage of this test. Even though the damage was alright, I don't think anyone would build this item on Eve since its burn means that for the max damage you have to let it do tick damage. This item had the same outcome with killing the squishy, but leaving the others 2 alive. However, it did, after letting the dot damage tick, do more overall damage to the Bruiser and tank. The numbers did vary, so these are averages between multiple tests. The damage went from approximately 3140, 2300, and 1875 damage respectively. Versus the tank, the damage was comparable to Rocketbelt, but in the combo it did fail to kill the Bruiser, which the belt was able to do. We finally move on to Ludens, which I personally prefer over Night Harvester, but based on the numbers, I might switch out every now and again with Rocketbelt, and just like Rocketbelt, I also killed 2/3 of the dummies, with the damage of 3062, 3182, and 1077 respectively. Except for the squishy, this item did more damage than Rocketbelt and especially more damage than Night Harvester. But either way, I do still feel like Night Harvester is a better option versus a squishy team. The armor pen that this item grants, like Rocketbelt, means that it does kill the Bruiser as well, putting it as the second item on this test to kill a Bruiser, but not the last. As for that, the last item is Everfrost, and yes, this item also kills the Bruiser, but unlike Rocket and Ludens, this item grants more AP per item instead of penetration, which is enough to set the Bruiser into the range in which Eve's R does the most damage with. The damage ranges from 3,327, 2,926, and 1,828 respectively. I do like the synergies that you get with Eve's W and this item, in where you would charm a target and then root them, preventing them from getting away after the charm ends, allowing you to complete a full combo on an enemy. Overall, this item could be considered a mix between Night Harvester and Rocketbelt, and may be a good option to highly mobile champs that could escape like a Talon that could jump over a wall. Now, we move on to the second part of testing, where we remove Leandries from the test. Eve is now level 14, and her runes are fully stacked. She now also has Lichbane thrown into the mix. There still is an open slot for Medjai's, or if behind or dependent on matchup, a situational item like Hourglass. It should also be noted that every item does indeed kill the Bruiser, so at this late stage in the game, if there are not tanks, Night Harvester would be an okay choice, since you would have enough damage to even combo a Bruiser. Some of these items, if you did an additional Q, it would put the tank into R execute range. These would be Ludens and Rocketbelt, but I did not add that to the combo because I felt it wouldn't be fair for all the items. The first item in the second test is Rocketbelt, with the damage ranging from 4,125, 4,200, and 2,694. The damage here is really nice, and at this point, you don't even have to R to kill the Squishy and the Bruiser. Next, we move on to Night Harvester, which does 4,276, 3,855, and 2,367 versus the tank and Bruiser. You see a drop off in damage of around 400 to 300 damage difference. This also means that unlike Rocketbelt, you still have to press R to kill the full health Bruiser. But you can also see that at this point, versus Squishy, this item is better for dealing damage, which means shorter time to kill versus Squishies than with a Rocketbelt. But even then, they die extremely fast with either item. We move on to Ludens, which like Rocketbelt, you don't need to R to full combo the Bruiser, with the damage going from 4,167, 4,322, and 2,777 damage overall. This item does more damage than Rocketbelt, but you will be killing targets so fast that this only matters versus the tank, which means you only need to Q and use 2 hate spikes to put the tank into R range compared to Q and 3 hate spikes with Rocketbelt. Overall, versus a beefier team, this item would be my preferred choice. We move on to the last item of this test, which is Everfrost. This item, like Night Harvester, when facing the tank, it does a lot less damage than the other two, and overall it does the least damage versus the tank, with damages ranging from 4,581, 4,133, and 2,392. Surprisingly, this item does more damage to Squishies than Night Harvester, though damage could be inconsistent if you miss the center of the active. Also, if you hit the active versus the Bruiser, you don't have to ult, but if you miss the active, you do have to ult. That wraps it up for Eve, which from what I gathered, and based on my opinion, I feel like she has a lot of flexibility with whatever mythic she wants to choose, with the best being Ludens and Rocketbelt and Night Harvester. Everfrost could be thrown into the mix, and you could do well with it, especially late game. But if you liked this video and you want more content like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on what champion you want to see next. See ya, gamers. I am out.